Hey guys, another video coming in. It's been a little while, I guess, since I made the last video. I want to try to make more, but various things are going on. But anyways, my last video I tried to make like a structured video, like where I had planned out like what I want to say and like written down some stuff, and I just realized I just don't think that's how it works for me. Like, because I was watching this YouTube channel, Psych Hacks. If you don't know, it's all about like relationship dynamics and things, and it's a really interesting channel. But he always has like very clear structure and like stories and things for all his videos, and I think they're really high quality. But yeah, I just feel like for me right now, I just want to like let it rip off the dome. So that's what I'm gonna do. Anyways, today I want to talk about how in skill building, use my phone. In skill building, what's the best way to say this? Skills are always made up of other smaller skills. So people always say like, oh, the fundamentals are the most important. And I do think that's true. It's not because you're only going to win using fundamental skills. Well, theoretically you are at the lowest level, but I'll explain in a second. But like, think about like a more advanced skill, right? My best example I can think of is like Rocket League. If you've ever played Rocket League, you can do something called air dribbling, where you take the ball. So Rocket League is like soccer with cars, but you can fly like a rocket, right? Rocket League. So you take the ball and you carry it on top of your car and you fly through the air carrying the ball on your car all the way into the opponent's goal. And this is considered like an advanced mechanic, right? But when you look at this mechanic more closely, you realize it's made up of a bunch of other smaller, simple, fundamental mechanics, right? That's pretty much how most things in all skills are, from what I've learned. For example, doing like a triangle choke in jiu-jitsu, well, it starts with, the setup, the positioning, and then it starts with like the initial trap triangle, and then you move into, a tighter configuration, and depending on the opponent's reactions, you do different things, but all of those things are all smaller, more fundamental processes that lead to what we call like a triangle or an air dribble, right? So every skill has like a big, larger, overreaching like name or whatever, but it's actually made up of very many fundamental skills. And I don't recommend that you go and like you have to learn these fundamental skills by themselves. Like, a lot of times people want to learn all the fundamental skills without trying something more difficult. But that's not necessarily the best way, because if you set your sights on something more difficult, you'll have no choice but to learn all the other fundamental skills that lead into that. So if I want to learn to air dribble, for example, an air dribble is made up of like first popping the ball and then a jump. Maybe it's a double jump too. If you know anything about Rocket League, you know what I'm talking about. Then you have to angle your car, you have to air roll, you have to boost. It's a combination of very many fundamental skills. So when you want to learn to air dribble and you can't get the initial pop correct, like obviously you're going to have to sit and focus and drill the initial pop over and over until you can progress further in the skill. Just like if you're learning a triangle in jiu-jitsu, it's great to learn how to finish it, but you also have to learn like the setup into the triangle. So when you're trying to learn it and you're doing like live rolling, your first objective might just be get into the setup for the triangle. And then, as you get better and better, you figure out the next fundamental skill that you need to build to get eventually to like finishing a triangle or actually air dribbling in Rocket League, right? So by learning more difficult skills, you also learn all the fundamental skills required. One other thing that happens is when you learn a more difficult skill, like air dribbling, for example, you'll find that many of the fundamental things you do when air dribbling will also apply to so many other types of skills in whatever you're learning. So like in jiu-jitsu, certain concepts you have about finishing a triangle, like keeping their posture broken and things like that, they all fundamentally tie into many other skills within the sport. So yeah, that's really all I have to say, honestly. I mean, the practical part of this is like choose something you're interested in and go for it and learn to break that down into the fundamental skills. And don't be scared to choose something more difficult, because even if it's too difficult for you at the time, when you start to learn those fundamental skills, you might find something else. You're like, oh, I can apply these skills to that situation as well. So, yep, that's basically all I have to say. If you agree, if you have anything to add, please leave a comment. Anyways, guys, see you next time.